Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are lineup building for week 20 or the conference championship games of the NFL season on Draftkings. And as I always say before I start my lineup building video, purpose of this video is not for me to hand you guys out a lineup to use in all of your contests. You guys got to be able to make your own lineups. This isn't even a guaranteed lineup I will end up using. This is just a video trying to see where I'm on later in the week. Then we build a lineup together just based off of some of the core plays and some of the news that came out later on in the week. So again, you guys got to make your own lineups, but I feel like I'm making enough videos throughout the week for you guys to be able to do just that. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out, really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Pennell16. And I'd say if you're interested in my spreadsheets, but season's pretty much over. But I have been working on my MLB model since like about 2 months ago, and I also got my NASCAR model I'm trying to finish up. So very, very excited for NASCAR and baseball to be starting up, my two favorite sports. So if you're just subscribed for NFL, you have that to look forward to if you want to play NASCAR DFS or MLB DFS. All right, so let's get into this slate. So at quarterback, again, this is just my lineup building video, so I'm only going to pretty much talk about the guys that are going to be in my lineup. If you want to see my thoughts on other players, I have my first look lineup that I built on Monday, I believe, and then I did my core plays video on Thursday, and today's Saturday morning. So you can check those out. Really not much has changed since either of those videos. There really hasn't been too much news that's come out. So, all right, so let's get into it. As I said pretty much all week, I am locking in Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position. There is no way I'm getting around that. I mean, he's just far and away the best quarterback on this slate. I mean, you got guys like Ryan Tannehill, who barely throws the football. You got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not that great of a fantasy quarterback. And then you got Aaron Rodgers, who's also not that great of a fantasy quarterback these days. So pretty much just leaves Patrick Mahomes as the very, very obvious number one, but he's also very, very expensive. So it's going to take a hit at probably the wide receiver position this week by trying to fit in Patrick Mahomes, but I think it's pretty much a necessity that you do so because he could outscore every quarterback on this slate by 20 points very easily. And, I mean, yeah, he's just clearing away the best quarterback, but you know, the Chiefs, they find themselves with the highest implied team total like last week. They have a 30-point implied team total, which is highest on the slate. This is also the highest total on the slate as well at 52. I believe it's 52.5 at the moment, with the other game being at 45. So this is the game you want a lot of exposures to, especially from the Chiefs side of the ball. This is a very beatable secondary versus Tennessee. They are 21st DVA versus the pass, allowing 20 points per game to quarterbacks, and they're kind of like a pass funnel defense. They are 10th DVA versus the run, pretty stingy versus running backs, but 21st DVA versus the pass. So it's much easier to throw on these guys. And according to PFF, the Chiefs' offensive line has a massive 38% pass blocking advantage this week, so that's certainly a positive for Patrick Mahomes. He should have time to sit back and launch the ball to TYREEK hopefully. And he also has elite weapons all around him and some very solid secondary options too. But he's got Travis KELCE, TYREEK Hill, the blue chip players, and then he's got Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman, Marcus Robinson, Damien Williams, the secondary pieces to round it all out. And I'll also will say that quarterbacks tend to run the ball a bit more in the playoffs, and we saw that last week with Patrick Mahomes, where he had 7 carries, 53 yards. So he pretty much got you an extra passing touchdown with the 5 points that he got you on the ground. 41 points last week. Now that was mostly due to game flow working out absolutely perfect. If you stacked the Chiefs last week, you could not have asked for a better game flow with them going down 24 points early. They had to chuck the ball pretty much the entire game. Worked out too. I don't expect game flow to work out that perfect, but it's the playoffs. You can't let teams back in the game, so they're going to put up as many points as they can possible. So Patrick Mahomes, I think he's an excellent option, and I will be plugging him into my lineups. He's going to be extremely high owned, but I think you just eat the Patrick Mahomes stock. So now we'll move on to the running back position, and I will say Derrick Henry is not in this lineup. And I want you guys to know I absolutely love Derrick Henry this week. I think he's an awesome play. I gave you in my core plays video, I made the case for Derrick Henry, despite projected game flow not working against him, but I still think he's an excellent play. So if you haven't watched my core plays video, I'd recommend checking that out on my thoughts on Derrick Henry. Just so you guys know, I'm not hating on Derrick Henry. I think he's a fantastic play, but I'm going to drop down to Damien Williams here because I just want Chiefs exposure. He comes in at 7K, and he crushed last week as the chalk running back, but it made all the sense in the world. Going up against a bad Houston team, he's going to be the main running back. He's the pass-catching running back. Game flow worked out perfect. He ended up catching that first passing touchdown from Patrick Mahomes to get the Chiefs comeback started. Now, I think it's easier to fade him this week at 7K versus a pretty tough Tennessee defense, but I'm still not willing to do so because I think his touchdown chances are as high as anybody on this slate. I mean, maybe not Derrick Henry, but Damien Williams' touchdown opportunity is going to be it's right up there at the top, considering the Chiefs have a 30-point implied team total. And he basically played pretty much every single snap last week. He played 59 of 61 snaps, with McCoy getting 1 touch and Darwin Thompson getting 1 touch. So it's his backfield. Like I said, it's the playoffs, so you got to get your best players the ball, and that would be Damien Williams in the backfield for the Chiefs. And he's also a very good pass catcher, so it's not even a bad correlation play to play a guy like Damien Williams with Patrick Mahomes. Like if you're playing Ryan Tannehill with Derrick Henry, not usually the best correlation play. Yeah, I know sometimes he catches a screen and takes it for a touchdown, but that's more likely to happen with Damien Williams and Patrick Mahomes than it would be with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. So it's actually not a bad correlation play with these two together. And you saw last week he had 6 targets, and the week prior he had 7 targets. Also caught that nice receiving touchdown last week as well. And yeah, he's also, like I said, he's won the passing game. So I think it's a pretty safe way to go with Damien Williams. He's going to dominate the backfield. They have a 30-point implied team total. I think he gets into the end zone once or twice. So I like the touchdown equity that he has. Damien Williams, we're going to plug him in. I think he's a very solid play, and I do want Chiefs exposure. Now, RB2, I think it's going to be very popular to go with RAHEEM MOSTERT this week. Earlier in the week on Monday, I was thinking maybe he might go lower owned because he burned everybody. But I think everyone's just a little bit too smart these days and realize, yeah, he was sick last week. He's just too cheap at 4,300. So we're going to plug him in. And this is just too cheap for RAHEEM MOSTERT. Yeah, I hate this backfield. I think we all do. I hate it when these guys were on small slates because it's terrible. It's just awful trying to peg this backfield, who's going to get the ball. But RAHEEM MOSTERT, he's a very, very good running back. He was a track star. We know he's extremely fast. He's been a touchdown monster like the past 7 weeks. Now, he's not totally safe because Tevin Coleman is going to get the first crack at carries just because he was the hot hand last week. But that doesn't mean that RAHEEM MOSTERT won't see the field. He's going to get you 10-plus touches. And at 4,300 versus a very bad Green Bay run defense, I would definitely take a stab. They are 23rd DVOA versus the run, allowing over 27 points per game to running backs. And game flow would set up well for him too. They are 7-point favorites at home, and it's like I said, very good matchup. And if he ends up getting the hot hand at 4,300 versus the Packers run defense, I mean, we're looking at a pretty good day. And besides the game last week, he was fine. 20, 11, 11, 24, 26, 23. I mean, not 23, 13. And before that, it was a little rough. But RAHEEM MOSTERT, I think he's fine. And like I said, he was actually sick all week last week, which that news was not reported whatsoever before the game. It came out on January 15th after the fact that he was, not January 15th, that was the last update on here, but it was before the, I think it was on like Sunday night or Monday after the game, so we had no idea, because I believe that game was on Saturday at 4, so we had no idea he was sick, but he was dealing with the illness all week. He had, he's getting IVs. He also was dealing with cramps during the game, so he only had 12 carries, still had 5.8 points. But you're going to give me a 1,500 price drop for probably the best running back in this backfield. I'll take a chance at it. So 4,300. I do expect him to be very popular, but I think it's for a good reason. I think he can bounce back. So that's going to leave us with 5,100 left per position, which is not terrible. And I will say the wide receiver spot this week is what's giving me the toughest time. So actually, as of right now, we're going to skip the wide receiver spots, and then we're going to see what fits after we do the tight end and flex spot, which I feel a little bit more comfortable with. So, sorry I had to pause for a second, but like I said, we're going to skip down to the tight end and flex spot because I feel much more comfortable going with the two guys that I'm going to plug in now, and then we're going to see who fits in at wide receiver. If we're able to spend up, we'll spend up. If not, we'll go with some cheap and mid-range guys, but I think these two guys are going to be a little bit more important on this slate. So I feel like they're a little bit safer as well. So we're going to start with Travis KELCE in the tight end spot, pairing him up with Patrick Mahomes. KELCE just absolutely broke the slate last week. He absolutely smashed. He had 44.4 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns, 12 targets, 10 catches, 134 yards. He even got hurt in the game. Asked Andy Reid to come back in the game. They let him back in. Then the very next play, I think he had like a 50-yard catch. And he's probably going to be like 100% owned on this slate just because of what he did last week. But it's for good reason. It's Travis KELCE and the Chiefs. You want Chiefs exposure on this slate. And Travis KELCE and George Kittle are by far the best tight ends on this slate. It's not even close. It's like Travis KELCE, George Kittle, and then it drops off to Jimmy Graham. So, they're by far the best, and I really want exposure to both. And I actually think doubling up on the two tight ends this week is a very good way to go. Hint, hint. I think it's what we're going to be doing in this video. But yeah, KELCE, he dominates pretty much every single category for tight ends. He's top 3 in market share of the air yards, target share, weighted opportunity share, you name it. And he gets a good matchup versus Tennessee, who's allowing 14 points per game to the tight end position, which is bottom 10 in the league, 30-point implied team total. He's not going to get 3 touchdowns again, but would it surprise you if he got 100 yards and 2 touchdowns? Wouldn't surprise me. He's had a great season. He had over 1,300 yards this year. I believe that's... Actually, no, that added... The stats in the top right corner did add on from the playoffs, but he had over 1,200 yards, I believe, total this year, so just from the regular season. So Travis KELCE, he's been great. We're going to plug him in. I think he's a very easy play to plug and play this week. And then we're going to go to the flex. We're going to continue with the flex spot, and then we're just going to plug in George Kittle here. I like both tight ends quite a bit, and I feel like they're just so much better than the rest. I just like doubling up on these guys, and I think it's going to be a popular strategy this week. I don't think it's going to be sneaky by any means because I expect both to be high-owned. But, both are excellent plays in my eyes. So George Kittle, he's at 5,800, and he was a victim of the 49ers not passing the ball in the second half last week. Only had 5 targets, 3 catches, 16 yards. Also was a very tough matchup versus Minnesota. Only had 4.6 points, but he should bounce back. Otherwise, he's been very consistent and solid and safe all season. If you just look at the numbers, 16, 18, 29, 18, rough game versus Baltimore, but then 27, 19, 14. You get it. He's George Kittle. He's one of the best, if not the best tight end in the NFL. Him and Travis KELCE, I think, are clearly the 2 best tight ends in the NFL. And actually, last time he played Green Bay, he balled out. 6 targets, 6 catches, 129 yards, had 1 touchdown, 27.9 fantasy points. I believe it was his second best game of the year besides the Atlanta game where he had 17 targets. So George Kittle, I think he's a fantastic play. He's a freak athlete, and he leads almost every single category for tight ends. I said Travis KELCE is like top 3, but George Kittle leads most of these categories. Target share, market share, rated opportunity share. George Kittle, he is fantastic. Green Bay is kind of middle of the road versus tight ends. They're not going to be able to stop him. They couldn't stop him week 12. I don't think they do it here. So George Kittle, we're going to plug him in. I think it's a bounce back week for George Kittle. So I feel pretty good with the start of this lineup. We got Patrick Mahomes, Damien Williams, Raheem Mostert's a little iffy, but he's also very cheap at 4,300. Then we got the 2 studs at tight end, Travis KELCE and George Kittle. And now at this point, what I've been doing is plugging in the 49ers defense, which at 2,900, I think they're the best defense on the slate. Green Bay's got the lowest implied team total against them. And, I don't love picking on Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones, but it's kind of I don't know. It's a small slate. And I think they're the best defense. They're playing at home. Give me a home defense, and they're only 2,900, so we'll plug them in. That gives us 5K left. Now, it's not like we're going to be fishing for plays here at the wide receiver spot. We got in these price range, we got guys like Debo, A.J. Brown, Sanders, Watkins, Lazard. It's not a bad price range. Now, if we want to fit in TYREEK Hill, I think we can, but it might be extremely tough to do so. But if I plug him in, that gives us 4K left, and it's honest. That's doable. So let's try the TYREEK Hill route first, and then we might try a couple of mid-range guys and see what the difference is. But speaking of TYREEK Hill, I think he bounces back this week. I was all over him last week. I liked him over Devontae Adams. I like both players, but I liked him over Devontae Adams, and that ended up being a big mistake. The Chiefs scored 51 points. You'd think TYREEK Hill would get more than 6 fantasy points. If you told me before the week started that the Chiefs are scoring 51 points, I'm probably thinking TYREEK Hill's got over 100 yards and 2 bombs at that point. Nope, he dudded. It was all Travis KELCE. It was all Damien Williams. That's just how it goes sometimes. Now, he is a riskier play than Devontae Adams just because his targets aren't the same as Devontae Adams, and also the Chiefs have 20 weapons to throw the ball to, and the Packers pretty much just have Adams, Jones, and the bum squad of YMCA players of MPS, Lazard, and Geronimo Allison, and Kumaro. So, the target volume won't be the same, but I still like TYREEK Hill here. The Chiefs got the highest implied team total on the slate, playing at home. I think he can bounce back. And wide receiver ones have ate up Tennessee all season, and TYREEK Hill absolutely tore these guys apart week 10. That was Patrick Mahomes' first game back from injury. He had 19 targets, 11 catches, 157 yards, touchdown, 36 fantasy points, his best game of the season. Is he going to get 19 targets again? Absolutely not. But if he can get me 10 targets, or maybe... I don't really care about the targets. It only takes a couple plays for TYREEK Hill to get over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not saying that's the most likely scenario, but TYREEK Hill has that upside every single slate. Again, it only takes 1 catch for this guy. You could be sitting the whole game, sitting pretty on a TYREEK Hill fade where he has like 20 yards. Next thing you know, he could break an 80-yard touchdown, and then he ends up in the winning lineup. So that's just how it goes sometimes with TYREEK Hill. But like I said, it's much easier to throw in these guys. It's a good correlation play with Patrick Mahomes. We'll plug him in. We got 52-point over-under. Everything would suggest TYREEK Hill can have a bounce-back game here. So we're going to plug him in at 7,200. Now, at this point, we only have 4K left, which we are pushing it a little bit. Because I do like Sammy Watkins, but I feel like that might be a little bit too many Chiefs. I like A.J. Brown running it back with A.J. Brown, but I don't think 5,200 is going to be enough salary yet. 2,800, so that's not doable unless we drop the 49ers defense. I really don't think defense is going to be the most important thing on this slate, so let's let's hold off on the defense first. Let's see if we fit in the Packers defense, because I don't want to play the Titans defense, and obviously we know the Chiefs won't be able to fit. So if we go with the Packers, I mean, Jimmy G's probably not going to kill you. I mean, I know it doesn't make the most sense considering we have George Kittle and RAHEEM MOSTERT in our lineups, but guys, it's a small slate. we can't get too picky here. So if we plug in the Packers, this is doable, because 3,300. There's a couple wide receivers that are 3,300 that we could end up playing, and I would rather sacrifice my defense over a stud wide receiver like AJ Brown. So at least there's 3,300 left. We could look at Tajay Sharp, but let me talk about AJ Brown a little bit, because I never actually talked about him. But AJ Brown, he comes in at 5,200, and you guys know I'm a huge AJ Brown fan. If you've been watching my videos for a while, I kind of hopped on that train, maybe a little bit late, but I was a couple weeks into Ryan Tannehill took over. I really like AJ Brown. I think he's going to be a really good player. Now, he's been an absolute non-factor in the playoffs, considering Derrick Henry's getting the ball 80 times a game. But suggested game flow would suggest that, or expected game flow would suggest that the Titans will have to throw the ball more than 8 times, more than 8 times this time. I think Ryan Tannehill has like 15 completions in the playoffs. It's a little rough, and they're not throwing the ball either. I think they have under 30 pass attempts, but it's working. So I mean, no, not hating on it, but it's not fun for fantasy purposes for the passing game. But I expect them to throw the ball in this game a little bit more. It's a 52-point over/under. They're 7.5-point dogs on the road. Now, I will say KC is tough on wide receivers, but Texans wide receivers did just fine last week. Hopkins had a good game. Stills had a good game. Will Fuller had a good game. Fells got into the end zone. Duke Johnson had a good game out of the backfield. And he actually has PFF's #1 wide receiver versus cornerback matchup of the week versus corner Bashaud Breeland, who has a 43 grade over on PFF, which is kind of by far the worst. And let's not forget how good Tannehill's been since week 8. I know since the playoffs started, it kind of seems like he's a bum because he's not doing anything, but it's just because they're handing the ball off. He's looking like an MVP candidate since he took over in the regular season, so you can't forget how good he was. And him and AJ Brown had an excellent connection. They were hitting on big plays every single week, it seemed like. And I think he's fine. So AJ Brown 5,200. It makes sense because we're stacking up the Chiefs. We got Patrick Mahomes, Damien Williams, Travis KELCE, TYREEK in this lineup. So running it back with AJ Brown, I mean, I think that's a pretty solid correlation play. So AJ Brown makes sense in this lineup. Then at this point we have 3,300 left, and that's not going to leave us with any options. But we could go a couple ways here. So I'm looking at Tajay Sharp or Adam Humphries. Now Adam Humphries is questionable. He has logged full practices all week. No idea if he's going to play or not. I'm hoping he doesn't play because it makes it simpler just to play Tajay Sharp. But if he plays, I'm not sure how much he'd actually play, so it kind of muddies the waters a little bit. But let's just assume he's out for this lineup, and we could look Tajay Sharp's way. He's 3,100, and the only nice thing I can say about Tajay Sharp is that he's cheap. But he gets targets pretty much every single week. If we just look at the past 4 games, 2, 3, 2, 6. Not great, but he's 3,100. This is a great game environment. I expect the Titans to throw the ball a little bit more. If he can just get us 1 to 3 catches, 3,100, I'm not asking for much. And really the only reason to play Tajay Sharp here is to fit in guys like Tyreek Hill, Mahomes, KELCE, Kittle. So I'm not really expecting much from Tajay Sharp, but we're going to plug him in. And I actually don't mind this. Now, I don't like having to drop from the 49ers defense to the Packers defense, but I think it's worth it to get in a guy like AJ Brown. Now, if we wanted to go with the Packers or 49ers defense, we'll see if we have to sacrifice, but let's just read this lineup off right now. So we got Patrick Mahomes, Damien Williams, RAHEEM MOSTERT, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Tajay Sharp, Travis KELCE, George Kittle, Packers defense. So I got my 4 studs in there that I like. I like KELCE, Kittle, Hill, or I guess 5, Williams, and Mahomes. Running it back with AJ Brown, Tajay Sharp, and I think that's a pretty solid way to go. Now, if we wanted to go to the 49ers defense, which I think is the best defense on the slate, again, I'm not going to base my whole lineup off of defense. I think that's probably our last way to go, but we'd have to drop AJ Brown here, and I think that would leave us with Emmanuel Sanders at 4,900. So if you want to go that route, that's fine. You could also look at Sammy Watkins, but if you just want to even out your lineup, you could go that way. I actually don't think it's the worst play in the world. And then if you wanted to go all mid-range at wide receiver instead of punting with Tajay Sharp, you could probably look at a guy like Sammy Watkins, maybe Deebo Samuel. Yeah, that's not a bad way to go. So if we're going to go mid-range and not punt with Tajay Sharp, but actually I like the Tyreek Hill one better because it gives you more upside. Because Tyreek Hill can get 40 points. I don't think the other guys really can't. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you guys with that. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Chris Pennell 16. And again, don't forget that MLB season is starting up pretty soon. We got a couple months, but NASCAR is in less than a month, and you guys know I'm very excited for NASCAR. I know a couple of you were too. I know I got a couple comments saying they found my channel off of NASCAR, so thanks for watching for so long, because I know it's been over a year ago. But it's going to be it. Like I said, wish you guys the best of luck. Enjoy the last slate of football games, besides the showdown slate. Pretty much it. Should be pretty good games. So, wish you guys the best of luck. Stay safe. We have an ice storm right now, so I'm stuck inside all day, which kind of sucks. But either way, I'll see you guys in the next video.